If you're a non-U.S. resident looking to start a U.S. LLC, this video will walk you through the entire process, step by step. We'll cover how to form the LLC, how to get your EIN, how to open a U.S. business bank account, and the few ongoing compliance requirements you need to stay on top of. And the good news is, this is actually much more straightforward than most people think. A lot of founders get overwhelmed because there's so much conflicting information online. But once you understand the process properly, it becomes very manageable. For most online businesses, this can all be done remotely. You do not need to move to the United States. You do not need a U.S. partner. And in many cases, you do not even need a physical office in the U.S. So let's start from the beginning. For most foreign founders, Wyoming is usually the simplest state to use. It's low cost, easy to maintain, widely used for online businesses, and relatively straightforward compared to other states. Unless you have a very specific reason to use somewhere like Delaware, Wyoming is usually the easiest place to start. The first step is choosing your company name. You'll simply search the Wyoming Secretary of State database to see if the name is available. Your company name needs to include LLC, or Limited Liability Company. If the name is taken, just adjust it slightly and continue. This part usually only takes a few minutes. Now, let's actually walk through the LLC formation process. I'll briefly show the setup process using the Northwest Registered Agent service on screen, so you can see exactly what to enter. First, enter your chosen business name. Next, add the Registered Agent service. For the company mailing address, you can use the Registered Agent address. For the principal office address, you can also use the Registered Agent address here. For organizer, simply select that the Registered Agent will file for you. You'll then be asked to create an account. Once you log in, click on Services, then select Registered Agent. Next, select Shop For, followed by your chosen company name. Then select the $39 business formation option. You'll pay the registered agent fee, plus the Wyoming state filing fee. Wyoming is actually one of the cheapest states to form an LLC. And importantly, you do not need to select any of the additional upsells or extra services. For most founders, the basic LLC formation is completely sufficient to get started. After payment, you'll receive your articles of organization uploaded to your client portal within 5 business days. These are your official LLC formation documents. After that comes the EIN. The EIN is basically the tax ID number for the business. And yes, non-U.S. residents can absolutely get an EIN, even without a social security number. This is one of the biggest misconceptions people have. Now, foreign founders cannot use the IRS online EIN system. Instead, you'll use IRS form SS4. This sounds intimidating at first, but the form itself is actually very simple once you understand the fields. You'll enter your LLC name, your responsible party information, your mailing address, and your business activity. One important thing many founders don't realize is that you can use your home address or your real business address in your home country on the SS4 form. This is completely normal for foreign founders. There's no need to rent office space in the United States just to get an EIN. In fact, using a real address you can actually verify later is often the cleaner and more practical long-term setup, especially because banks and payment processors may later ask you to verify your address. This becomes important later when opening bank accounts and working with payment processors. Banks mainly want consistency in a legitimate-looking business setup. That means matching information, professional documentation, and a real operational business, not a virtual address. There are generally 3 main ways people get their EIN. The first option is faxing the SS4 directly to the IRS. This is usually the easiest option, although it can take approximately a week to receive your EIN confirmation back. The second option is calling the IRS directly. Many foreign founders do this successfully and often receive the EIN during the call. You can also mail the SS4 form to the IRS. However, this method is generally not recommended because it can take several weeks or even months to mail the documents and receive the physical EIN confirmation back. And lastly, there are done-for-you EIN services if you simply want someone else to handle the process for you as fast as possible. Once your LLC and EIN are ready, the next step is opening a U.S. business bank account. This is where your business really starts becoming operational. Many foreign founders use platforms like Mercury, Wise, or Relay. Requirements can change over time, but generally you'll need your LLC documents, your EIN confirmation, and your passport. Some providers may ask for additional verification, depending on the business. And honestly, this is another area people tend to overcomplicate online. For most legitimate online businesses, once your documents are organized properly, the process is usually very manageable. One issue many founders run into at this step is using their registered agent's virtual address for banking applications. This will often be rejected by banks or payment processors. As mentioned earlier, it's usually better to use a real home address or business address that you can actually verify later if needed. Banks mainly want consistency and a legitimate-looking business setup. After your LLC and banking are set up, there are only a few ongoing compliance requirements to stay on top of. Wyoming has an annual report requirement each year. This can be done by yourself or your registered agent. Foreign-owned single-member LLCs may also need to file Form 5472, along with a Pro Forma 112 annually. This sounds much more complicated than it actually is. The important thing is simply staying organized and not ignoring deadlines. Once you understand the yearly requirements, maintaining the LLC is fairly straightforward. And honestly, that's really the biggest thing I want people to understand. Starting a U.S. LLC as a non-resident is not nearly as difficult as many people assume. The internet tends to make the process sound far more complicated than it really is. In reality, most founders are simply forming the LLC, getting the EIN, opening banking, and keeping up with a few yearly requirements. Once the structure is in place, you can focus on actually building the business. Hopefully this video gave you a much clearer understanding of the process and helped simplify some of the confusion around foreign-owned U.S. LLCs. And if you want the simplest path, I'll include links below to the services and resources many founders use to get everything set up quickly and correctly. Thanks for watching.